Hey folks, this is Ben with Meshtastic again, kicking off week 3 of our video series for the month of modules in Meshtastic. Today I'm going to be going over just a brief overview of the external notifications module. And the external notifications module is really neat because, obviously a lot of you folks have screens on your Meshtastic devices, and that's one way to know that you've received a message on your mesh. Another way, obviously, is a push notification within the apps, and your phone dings you or whatever. Another way, though, if you have more standalone devices or just want an extra visual or audio cue, is to use the external notification module. And that typically requires some extra peripherals, and I'll go into that a little bit. And also, of course, configuration, right? But so right here, obviously, first thing out of the gate, like most of these modules, we actually have to enable it. Another thing that we have to do is actually configure which GPIO pins that the device is using, and the community has some recommendations on that. If you go to like the Discord, you can ask questions about where to hook up, what to hook up for receiving external notifications to activate any number of things. The main three that we have are an LED, a vibra, so a little buzzer vibration device, like you get a little buzz on your cell phone, and an actual buzzer, and that's a PWM. Got one somewhere around here. Actually, there's one on the back of this, and it's a little. This one is a rack 8001, I believe, and it's just a little PWM buzzer, so it can play little tunes. And I'll go into how to set up each of those. I'm going to go ahead and plug in this rack device actually. So one of the things that's outside of the external notifications module actually is the device buzzer GPIO, but it interacts with the notifications module. So you see that little ditty that it played when the device booted up. That is because I set the device buzzer GPIO pin. And like I said, the external notification module can actually interact with that. Once we get into the configurations, I'll actually explain that a little bit in greater detail. You can set a number of settings here. Let me just go through some of these. So obviously enabling. There's also some ability to actually trigger, basically decide what triggers a notification. One of the things that we decided might be a good character to actually initiate an external notification is actually the ASCII bell, because that's a pretty common thing in computing. But you can also decide to do that just on any message. We don't have any. This is only for text messaging, so there's no waypoints or anything like that yet. That's something that we probably need to look at eventually. There's also some configuration, if you want to get kind of technical, whether if we're looking at LED, whether that GPIO pin needs to be pulled to high voltage or low voltage. Generally, you want to leave that at high, but and we have, again, settings for any LEDs or vibra or buzzer GPIO pins. And I will get to that. I'm actually going to skip over to the CLI commands here just because I think they're kind of illustrate it better. So obviously, went over this. We have enabling the external notifications module. So we have to set that to true to turn this functionality on. Active, that's actually, we probably should rename this one, but that's whether or not we go to high or low for the GPIO pin. Then we have, as I alluded to earlier, the bell, whether or not to alert on a bell, ASCII bell character. And we've got that for each individual item. So like LED, for instance, here, or whatever pin you want to pull too high in that case when you receive an ASCII bell. And we got the same thing for vibra and buzzer. And then we've got one for messages for each of the three devices that you can plug in. And you see, once we get down here, we've got output, vibra, output buzzer. So those are our actual GPIO pin values. So whatever your, again, Arduino GPIO pin is. So if you're, if for you guys who are familiar with the Arduino, with Arduino development, whatever you set as your output mode and digital write to those pins, that's what we're looking for in there. For output, MS, that's your milliseconds that you want to pull a device GPIO pin high. So this is really good, and I'll actually demonstrate for stuff like relays if you want to trigger a relay for a certain number of seconds, or just keep an LED on for a certain number of seconds. There's also use PWM, and that's for buzzers. That's a neat feature. And we've also got nag timeout. So if you have a standalone device, or even outside of a standalone device, if you have a device with a button and you want to stop the notification, that's you can actually press the user button, but that's a timeout feature associated with that. If you set a really long external notification output milliseconds, and you want to time it out eventually. So let me just show really quickly here a demonstration. So I've got two devices. This one has been configured to alert on messages, and this one actually has one of the only devices or peripherals that actually is automatically triggered by the external notification module. And that's one we added recently. It's the rack, was this 4001? It's an RGB LED, and the reason why we can automatically detect this is because it's an I2C peripheral. So if you remember from our video on telemetry, it's kind of the same thing. As this gets detected at startup, and if you have external notification module enabled, it just uses it. It's okay. I've got a peripheral. I'm going to use this for external notification. Also set up the buzzer, and this is a buzzer in slot D. I think that's one of the more common configurations, and I will post all the configurations as always. I think that one is set to pin 21, if I'm not mistaken. There's different pins. Some of these slots are more problematic than others, but I think slot D and slot C are kind of the ones that folks generally use. And over here, I've got a rack device with something probably not a lot of you have played with, and that is a relay module. And so this relay module is on GPIO 4, and I have this one set up to only trigger on ASCII bell. So it shouldn't trigger this relay. You'll hear the little click. It's not a solid state relay. And you'll hear the little click when I send a message. So I'm just going to demonstrate this. So we should only have on this device, we should receive some external notifications from both the RGB LED and the buzzer, but this device will not be triggered because I'm not sending an ASCII bell. All right, let's send this out. Here we go. Pretty neat. And then this device, okay, both of these should be triggered now, but you should hear the click of this relay because I'm going to send an ASCII bell character along with just a text message. So both of these devices should activate now. Hear a little click. So I've got this one set to pull that GPIO pin for 2 seconds. So if you had something you wanted to trigger, like a gate, electronic gate, perfect use case for that. I will be doing a video towards Independence Day where I'm going to do something fun with this, and hopefully we'll do that actually with remote hardware instead of external notification. But that's all I've got for right now. And just a brief overview of how this works, but there's a lot more that, fancy setups you can do. I'm going to be doing the next video hopefully with a messenger device from Trofo. Some of you guys might know what that is. That's a really neat one. But for right now, I'm just showing kind of what you can do with just, basic off-the-shelf rack components. You can obviously breadboard out something with a T-beam or T-LoRa, or with these with an I/O module. But just post in the comments if you have any interesting setups or use cases. And as always, join the Discord, and I'll see you guys next week.